I was just doing a quick search of Cindy Watts on YouTube, and I went through list after list of videos, and nearly every single one of these videos, thumbnail, title, portrayed Cindy Watts in a certain way, and I'm going to talk about that later. I do wonder if she has any regrets about how she approached the whole situation from the very start. Um, because I do believe that she has a lot to do with how people perceive her, her own interviews, her own behavior, the things that she said early on from the onset. I do believe that it has a lot to do with how she's perceived by a lot of people. And you know, not everybody dislikes her. There are some people who show love for Cindy Watts and are very supportive of her. And I'll talk about that later, but I want to talk about my own regrets since I started my YouTube channel. And I'm not going to tell you everything. There's just things that I can't tell you right now that I would like to share, but I just can't. Um, and I'm going to talk about some illusions and delusions in the What's case, and I probably will put it down for a while. I said I would return to the What's case briefly, and I want to do it briefly. Um, if I could turn back time and start again, I probably would be completely anonymous. Now, I know that I don't live stream. I don't sit in front of you and live stream. And I've actually thought about doing that. And actually, based upon what I'm going through now, I'm glad that I don't do that. I have a issue with one subscriber, and some of you would have seen this subscriber. Some of you would have seen their comments. I'm not going to tell you whether it's a he or a she. Um, and I'm going through an issue with this particular subscriber, and never in a million years. I thought because I didn't live stream and, I don't tell you everything or share my whole entire life with you, I never thought that I would have any subscribers who would become attached to me in any way, at least not in the way this subscriber seems to be. Um, and I wish I could tell you more. I really wish. I plan to do an episode on this, but not right now. I just can't because I can't engage with this person. Um, I really, really wish I could tell you more, but if I was going to do it all over again, I would go. I would be anonymous. I wouldn't put any pictures up of myself. When Plunder started her channel, when she started on the Watts case, she was completely anonymous. There were no photographs of her. No one knew what she looked like. And then she had some issues with that because YouTube actually like to see that there's a face behind the channel rather than just a robot kind of thing. They'd like to know that there's a real person behind the channel. So for that reason, you know, I don't regret, presenting myself, you know, as a channel. But because of what I'm going through with this particular subscriber, I really wish I'd just gone completely anonymous. I mean, I don't put my name out there. Only a few people know my real name, or at least my first name. Bam knew my real name, first name, and only a very, very small amount of people know my real first name. Simcast is my channel name, but because of what I'm going through with this sub, um, I really kind of wish that I'd just gone anonymous when I started. I've got a few regrets and I've made a few mistakes. Oh, and by the way, this person is not necessarily who you think it might be. As a matter of fact, I probably would say the person's name if it was that simple. Um, I also want to say that I have, by mistake, said my real first name here, on my podcast, but a long, long time ago. It was a long time ago that I mistakenly said what my first name is, and most people just wouldn't remember. But I have my first name is the same as a very famous person, but I'm not going to tell you who it is. I'm not even going to give you a clue. But there are some people. There's some people that know my name. So like there's some people on YouTube that do know my first name, but most people don't. Um, I also have the same birth date, not by year, but by day, as a very famous actress. But I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to tell you that either. Um, so anyway, Frankie has, and I rarely talk about. I mean, there was a time that I talked about Frankie's so-called court case and fund and crowd justice very often, to the point where people said, "Can you talk about something else?" And I really just don't concern myself with Frankie's crowd justice or Claire Morgan and all the stuff that I was somewhat obsessed with when I was on Bam's channel. I really don't associate myself with it anymore. However, Frankie has put up a new update. And let me just say this. I never disliked Frankie or the Ruseks nearly as much as Bam. You know, I just couldn't. I can't even get my head around her disdain. I have. I still have sympathy for Frankie, and I still have sympathy for the Ruseks. I absolutely do, and I'm going to state that firmly, that I do have sympathy for Frankie and the Ruseks, and I think what AD did with the Watts case, I think he was just very, very pernicious when it came to the Watts case. He was just probably the worst thing that could have ever happened to the Watts case. However, and I'm just going to say this, I've said it again, I just think pursuing AD at this stage, with the amount of time it's taken, with the amount of money it's going to take, and as you can see, the crowd justice has stalled, and it's been stalled for a long time. That doesn't mean to say that people won't donate. I think people will donate, and I think it could possibly reach its final number, if there ever is going to be a final number. But people are unwilling to. I mean, when I say it can possibly reach its final target, I'm just saying hypothetically. The truth of the matter is that the crowd justice has stalled. And that's because we are going through very difficult financial times in the world. And people just don't have the money to spend on AD. And that's how I see it. Um, Although I sympathize greatly with the Ruseks, I think pursuing AD, the amount of money and time that it costs, is just simply not worth it. And now that he's not here anymore, when I say not here, I mean on YouTube, I think he's just not even worth it. He's just not even worth pursuing. Like I said, I will not be donating, and people have no incentive to donate because he's no longer on the platform. I want to end this by talking about Cindy Watts and the Watts case and the Watts community. Um, Cindy Watts is somebody that a lot of people have very extreme views on. Some people um, don't have much love for her, and other people do love her. But I think at the beginning, there was a lot of negativity surrounding her, and that's because of the interviews that she did. And to this day, I don't think I've ever heard her say that her son was fully responsible for what happened. It's always aimed at somebody else. And I think that's why people have their opinion of her. But she also has a lot of people now who support her. I think when some people decided that they weren't fans of the Ruseks anymore, I think some people decided to support Cindy, if you know what I mean. People who had growing disdain for the Ruseks might have started to feel more sympathy for the Watts. I know Bam was like that. But I don't think the sit-down interviews that Cindy did helped her. And I think there's just so many illusions and delusions in the Watts case. You know, the illusion of this big house, 2.4 children, happy, and you look beyond the surface and the marriage wasn't nearly what it was presented to be on the surface. Didn't have as much money as the house would make them appear to have. There was that secret, there was Nicole Kessinger, and a lot of other things. There's just so many illusions and delusions of this marriage. And then there is Cindy Watts and Ronnie Watts with this delusion that their son is going to get a 35C, which will never happen. and somehow he's going to be back at home one day, sitting at the dinner table, and that will never happen. Um, and then all the channels, and I think what's left of the Watts case now is a lot of the channels are just pushing this NK theory. That's really what's left. The people who have this very, very strong inclination or desire to see something happen with NK. And the truth of the matter is, nothing is ever going to happen with NK regarding this case. And it's not a popular opinion, but that is the truth. Um, but I do have sympathy for Cindy Watts. It's a very small amount because of her behavior, but I do believe she loved her grandkids, and I do believe she was a good grandmother. Unfortunately, I think she loved her son a little bit more than she did those beautiful girls. And I think she did the case and her son a great disservice by not placing full responsibility on him from the very beginning. Um, that's just my opinion. And when you search Cindy Watts on YouTube, it's just pure, it's just the same stuff from channel to channel. And that's because she did that interview in the very early stages. She should probably never have done that interview, but it's given a lot of people great content. And I'll just leave it there for now until next time. Oh, this is an extra add on. And that's why I always like to double check before I put anything out there, because this is not something that I've ever said, but this is what I've been told by some people. People have come to me and said that Dave is no longer friends with Cindy and Ronnie Watts. Well, it appears that Dave still is in contact and is friends and has gone to visit Cindy and Ronnie Watts recently, and the friendship is still going. So that's what it appears. I've been told different, but I never ever. I usually don't go with what I've been told first time. I like to verify information, and I'm no fan of Dave. Everyone knows this, but even when people say things about him that might not be solid in terms of facts, even when Miss Spencer was saying he didn't have a passport, even when I didn't like Dave back then, um, I stuck up for him and said he does have a passport. And I'm no fan of Dave. Okay, there's a lot of things that I could say about who he is, but it seems like he is indeed still friends with Cindy and Ronnie. So, contrary to popular belief that he's no longer friends with them, it appears that he's still friendly with them.